Okay guys, welcome to another video review. This is of Sideshow's premium format, Abigail Chase, Danger Girl. This is based off of J. Scott Campbell's pretty famous comic book series. It's about a female spy. I do confess I've never read a single Danger Girl comic book in my life, but of course I am a big fan of J. Scott Campbell's work, and this is one of his more famous IPs. Certainly Abbey Chase or Abigail Chase and the Danger Girl moniker are very well known. There's a lot of comic art related to her, and I think this is a one-off from Sideshow, but if she does real well, they may think about adding the other two. I think there's 3 secret agents total, and there's 2 more. They're kind of like Charlie's Angels almost, right? I think it's like J. Scott Campbell's version of Charlie's Angels. So there's 2 more, and if this does well, I think they were thinking about maybe doing the other 2. I don't know how well this did. They made 500 of her, the exclusive version at least. I think mine is 360 out of 500. I just got her in today, and I live about, I live very close to Sideshow, and so I always get them very, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 guys out there in the world who get them faster than I do because they live like maybe half an hour down the street. But I'm pretty close, so I get these pieces pretty quickly. So this is gonna be one of the first reviews of her, I think. So let's talk about it. Quarter scale, we'll start first with the exclusive. So the exclusive is this print on its own little separate base. I think they're doing this at least with a lot of J. Scott Campbell statues. They did the same exclusive with the Little Mermaid from J. Scott Campbell's Fairy Tale Fantasies. I'm just gonna kind of turn this around. There's nothing much to it. It's a little polystone base, and you put the the metal on into the little slot. Let me say, I really love this type of exclusive. There's a couple ways Sideshow can go with exclusives, right? For a while there, they used to put prints as exclusives, which I was definitely not a fan of because it was just a mess. Sometimes the prints get damaged. It was a very weak exclusive in my mind. You're basically getting the exact same statue, except for the exclusive, you just get the stupid art print. And I know there's some people out there who love art prints, and now Sideshow is trying to basically sell the art prints separately, which I think is a huge scam. But different strokes for different folks. If you love those, enjoy, all power to you. But I always hated those exclusives. And then sometimes you have exclusives that are just silly little things, like they put like an extra hand holding something weird, or that type of thing, and it creates problems of itself. A lot of statues have exclusive portraits, which on the surface is great. Oh, you get more bang for your buck, you get another head, and then what? You can only display one head at a time. What are you gonna do with the other head? What are you gonna keep the other head? So it's sort of a mess. So unless there's a real good reason for the head, and both heads or both portraits are spectacular, I'm not really a huge fan of those. Same thing with switch out arms and all that stuff. But this one I think is really classy. It's not paper, so it's not gonna get damaged very easily. It's metal. It just feels classier. You put this in here, and it just has a very nice picture of the control art. It says right here, Abbey Chase from Danger Girl, and this is sort of the art that inspired the statue. You see the side, the front, the back view. Just very nice, and it's really nice to kind of display this next to the statue itself. So I do hope that Sideshow does more of this. Right now they only do it, it seems, with J. Scott Campbell pieces, but I would love it if they did more of this for their exclusives in the future. So let's get to the statue itself. I've already done a far away view, sort of looking at her. She's pretty big, okay? And then let's sort of gently rotate her so we can take a look at the side, the back. Here goes. Get a little bit close up of the face. All right, so the base, pretty classy. It says Danger Girl, has her silhouette right over here. Very solid and big. I had a hard time getting this out of the styrofoam. By the way, it was really embedded in there. I never had a harder time taking just a simple base out as with this statue. So it's kind of surprising. The bottom has felt. It's, you know, very nice and classy. You have the limitation. And then, you know, around the base, these are two, I guess, flame effects. They're clear resin. I think overall it's done okay. You know, I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's decent. If you put a little bit of light, I think you can really make it glow, which is fine. It's actually magnetized and it fits into the slot in the base very nicely. So both pieces are magnetized. So that's very nice. She comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. The head, the hand with the gun, the body, and then the two flames in the base. Now, you know, sometimes with these statues, just because quality control issues, they don't fit into the base very well. I mean, I know it's something we shouldn't have to worry about, but you know, it does happen. I'm pleased to say that she slots in very nicely, no problems with the foot. Her boots are very nice and glossy. Very nicely done. So I like the boots. Now, when I ordered her a while back, I had sort of forgotten about her. And you know, she is a premium format, and I just didn't know that her pants are actually completely mixed media. So I don't know how well this shows up, but this part here, for instance, this is resin. That's resin, obviously, her, you know, her hand on her hips. But all of this is leather or faux leather or fall leather. This is leather, this is fabric right here. All of this is fabric. Hopefully getting really close, you can sort of see the little knitting in this area. So there you go. Yeah, putting my finger here, I guess, really sharpens it. So this is all fabric, knitting, you know, fake leather. You can see the stitching right here. And right on over here, you can see the stitching. So again, resin, and all of this is just fabric, okay? Again, hopefully you can get an idea of that. So you can see sort of how it all sort of comes together, and it's just basically wraps really nicely and tightly to her figure. And then this is, of course, resin. So, you know, she has mixed media pants, which I really hadn't appreciated, but they did a fantastic job with those pants. And this is really good mixed media. And it is, you know, one of the things that sets apart, I think, still licensed pieces from custom pieces is that, you know, custom pieces, they do not have the sophistication to do mixed media. And mixed media done incorrectly is horrible. And sometimes Sideshow has done a horrible job with mixed media, but not in this case. I mean, I think in this case, they did a fantastic job with the pants. And then as we move on, we get to her upper body, which is all resin. Again, you know, this is the very classic J. Scott Campbell style. Very nice with the finger, you know. Here she is. Here's her face. There's a little mole, you know, on the left cheek right there. Very nice gloss effect on the lips. Pretty eyes, not googly. Looks perfect. Very nice portrait. Good hair. You know, the last, I think, Sideshow piece with a female head I reviewed was the Spider Gwen Stacy, and that paint job was a big letdown. But this one was very good. So again, you know, it's like hit or miss. Sometimes the consistency of Sideshow's production pieces still lacks quite a bit. It's, you know, every once in a while you get a home run, it's really good, and other times it's just not good at all. And to be fair to Spider-Gwen, maybe it's because, again, J. Scott Campbell's style is a lot more cartoonish, a lot more exaggerated, and so it's a little bit easier maybe to paint to give you that type of look than the more realistic portrait. I think realistic portraits are really hard to paint, and so maybe for her, because she's more cartoony, it's a little bit easier to get it right because it's a little bit of a simpler paint job. But I just also think in general, they just did a better job with her, you know, with her eyes, the lips, everything, okay? So I'll back it up. Now, speaking of paint job, I have to really, hopefully, I don't know if you can see this, I think you can. I have to really give props to the production paint of this. As you can see, they decided on the back at least to make this shirt extremely thin. It's almost like a wet t-shirt or a wet shirt. You can see her musculature and sort of the folds of the shirt. And you can see the way they painted her, they decided to give her, again, like a wet or sheer paint. This is not that easy an effect to pull off well. I mean, normally you have to pay a paint master, or it has to be a prototype level paint job to do that. And so I think the sculpt is fantastic. And I think that the paint job is really, really good. I mean, this is a production paint job. As you can see, they decided to, you can almost see through the shirt and see like the musculature and the anatomy of her back. And it's pretty accurate. And then it's just a kind of the whole thing. This is, again, I don't think this is something that you can appreciate from the photos that Sideshow initially put up. I forget, but the back for her is almost more impressive than her front. You have so many things going on. You've got the musculature of the back. You've got the way the t-shirt, which is like super tight, and how does that t-shirt stretch over her back musculature, her back anatomy, and the wrinkles that are created from it. And then of course that has to be adjusted depending on her pose, how her shoulders are, her right arm is lifted up with a gun. And then on top of that, you decided to make it sheer. So there's a lot going on, both sculpt and paint wise, and it's fantastic. And then of course in the front, on the side, you get a little hint of that sheerness, for lack of a better term. I mean, obviously they can't make the breasts sheer, right? That'd be going a step too far. But you can see that even all the way up, they push it all the way up to the side right here. It's still actually kind of sheer. You can hopefully you can kind of get an idea of that. With the shadows, it's kind of sheer even there. So again, that's pretty impressive that they were able to pull that off. Overall, I think she's gorgeous. Very, very nice art direction. I'm going to back up a little bit. So I really kind of like the pose. Kind of she's walking, they catch her in mid-stride. She's got a gun, sort of cocking her right arm. And it really sort of, I think, is a very classic pose of Abbey Chase from Danger Girl. If you're going to have one premium format, this is not Wonder Woman, this is not Batgirl, not Superman, not Wolverine. You don't get 35 chances to make her, right? And so, if you're going to get just one chance to pull off a J. Scott Campbell Danger Girl Abbey Chase, then I think this is a great way to do it. I don't think you need another Abbey Chase. I think she's perfect the way they did her. And overall, between I think the base, by the way, is average. Okay, nothing to write home about. This effect has been done before with Dark Phoenix, Jean Grey. It's okay, not horrible, but nothing to wow you. But it has a great pose. And then the fabric mixed media pants, along with the paint job of her shirt, which is just, it still floors me to see that they were able to pull that off. And then the overall quality control of the other paints and her portrait. This is overall very, very good piece. Very happy with her. And then of course the exclusive is the proper icing on the cake. A nice metal sheet, metal print of the control art. Doesn't get better than that. The one nitpick I would have of her is that I think her gun is a little bit, the paint on the gun is a little bit mediocre. I think when you look at it really closely, it is a bit plasticky, I think a really, really good weathering effect, really, really good repaint of the gun could make that a lot better. And then finally, the seam line where her head goes onto the neck is a bit noticeable. Now your mileage may vary depending on the particular piece you get. It might stack on a little bit better. Mine, I had to really sort of, a bit more forcefully try to really push it in place to kind of get that crack to disappear as much as I can between the head and the neck. I think they could have hidden that a little bit better. There's no magnet, so there's no magnet for the hand, there's no magnet for the head, but they decided to make magnets for the stupid flame effect for the base. So that kind of blows my mind a little bit, that you would choose to magnetize that. I mean, I get it. You don't want that thing to fall off and break. But I think in today's day and age with statues, you've got to magnetize, come on, Sideshow, you've got to magnetize the arms and the hands and the heads, okay? And you've got to make sure that that fits cleanly and nicely. Again, in 2019 now, it's just simply unacceptable for you to not have magnetized heads, to just plop that right in place. I know it's a little bit extra cost, but you've got to do that. Okay, so that's a sort of a major criticism of that. But other than that, she's beautiful, and I'm very, very happy with her. Again, I'm just going to move her around so you get a viewpoint, get a chance to see her from all 360 directions. Beautiful, beautiful statue. A lot going for her. Very, very nice. Now, there is one thing, and it's I hesitate to even bring this up, but I think people are going to talk about it, which is, when you look at the control art, especially the rear end, and you look at this here. Again, there was some controversy about this years ago with the Rogue premium format statue from Sideshow. Yes, obviously one of the disadvantages of having real fabric stretched over the statue is you don't get as clear and as sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but you don't get to have as a sharp cleavage for the buttocks as you would if you just sculpted it. And this is, of course, what we're talking about. They do have statues that are sculpted, and you always have much sharper defined anatomy there. Now, from my point of view, I like a sexy statue as much as the next guy, but I do prefer this a little bit better. I think it's more realistic. I don't really like these sculpted butts where essentially they're supposed to be wearing leotards or costumes or pants, and it just looks like one of those things where you painted, the clothes on a naked body. I don't, personally, I just don't really like that effect very much. I like, I guess, what's the word? I like eroticism, or I like attractiveness, but in a classy, understated manner in that respect. And so I think this is fine. She has very, very skin tight pants. It definitely is in line with the character. It's accurate to the art, and it's more natural. And I like this effect here much better than if it were like this effect, where again, it just looks like you painted clothes on a naked body. So that's sort of what I have to say on that, just sort of to address that, because I know that's something that does come up with female statues quite a bit. I think the mixed media pants for her are perfect. I love the way they put it on. It's not baggy. It's not poorly done. I remember they did the same thing with Batman. I think the Superman version, the mixed media was very nice. And just so that this is not, it's not sexism, a lot of people complain about Superman's mixed media, where they felt like his muscles were not as well sort of delineated. So again, it's not just breasts and buttocks for women, but for men like Superman, Batman, the complaint is you just don't see the pecs, you don't see the rectus muscles, the eight-pack, you don't see all of that amazing muscle anatomy. You don't get that from mixed media. It hides all of that. But it feels a little bit more realistic. So it's just like what style of statue you enjoy, right? When it comes to that. And I remember that for me, I love the Superman one. They made the mixed media, the cloth really tight. Yes, you don't have that over the top muscle anatomy. And there are statues that are fully sculpted that will give you that, especially from say Prime One's Hush version of Superman, they give you that. But I like that. Now the Batman was the same thing, but they really screwed that one up. They made like the fabric didn't, wasn't very tight around the armpit, and it just sagged down. It just looked really, really poor in terms of quality, like almost like Batman needed to go to a tailor. So when you do it wrong, then no, it doesn't look good. But I have to say for her, they definitely did it right. Looks amazing. And honestly, from this distance, from this view, if you didn't know better, you would think that this was sculpted. You would think that this was a sculpted lower half, and only when you get closer do you realize, oh my God, this is actually not sculpted. It's fabric, stretched very, very professionally and very, very nicely over her lower legs and her hips. So there you have it, Abbey Chase, Danger Girl, inspired by J. Scott Campbell. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review and take care.